Guys, this is going to be one of the most valuable videos on Airbnb and Airbnb arbitrage on the whole internet, period. In this video, I essentially want to give you the exact 90-day roadmap that myself and my students use to set up, launch their first Airbnb property within 90 days, and this will cash flow them over $2,000 a month, starting with $0 down. So who am I? What's my pedigree, and why am I qualified to talk on this? Well, my name is Matthew Tregoning. I'm an Air Force veteran. I built a 7-figure Airbnb business in just 2 years. I separated from the Air Force. I wanted to be financially free. I was trying to do this through traditional real estate investing. Wasn't working out, big down payments, complex renovation projects, all that. So I essentially had one Airbnb that I bought, ran out of money, couldn't get any more. So I stumbled on this Airbnb arbitrage model where you can rent properties and then sublet them for a profit. So then rather than saving up $100,000 at a time to get one Airbnb prop, now we're able to leverage business funding, start with zero, and then pick up 4 to 5 properties at a time. Again, they cash flow $2,000 each. So what does that mean? You have $0. Then you pick up 4 or 5 properties, all of a sudden you're cash flowing $10,000 a month. So this business has been an absolute blessing for myself and my family. Gave us complete financial freedom, location freedom, freedom of time. We just got back from a month-long trip to Portugal. Didn't have to ask anybody for time off. Didn't lose any money being out there. Was able to operate my business remotely. Checks kept coming in from Airbnb, VerboBooking.com, all the platforms while I'm traveling. And that's ultimately all I ever wanted in this life. From a young age, I knew that there were people that were getting paid regardless of their time and regardless of their location. I had no idea how to do it, but I've always been very interested and dedicated to figuring out how to do it. So, I knew I started to get a little bit of traction in real estate. And then, God kind of blessed me and my family to stumble upon this business model. And we've been in the business for about 4 years now, 4 or 5 years. Like I said, we bought a property for Airbnb. We rented out our primary house when I was deployed, when I was still in the military. We rented that out on Airbnb. So about 4 or 5 years total, and have kind of learned this business and this exact trial and error along the way. So I'm going to give it all to you guys for free. It's Chris. So phase 1, typically these 2 phases will take anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. We're really just looking to set the foundation for our business. And so we're opening up an LLC. We're getting our EIN. The EIN is like a social security number for your business. So both of these items, we don't have to overcomplicate it. Super quick and easy. You can go to a website called northwestregisteredagent.com. They'll handle the whole thing for you. Typically, we're filing in New Mexico because they have a very low filing fee compared to other states. So some states like Massachusetts, California, you might be paying $500-$600, but in New Mexico, I believe it's $49 up front, and then they don't have a renewal fee. So like those other states might be multiple $100s every year just to maintain your LLC. In New Mexico, you don't have that fee every year. And you might be wondering, I don't live in New Mexico. My properties aren't going to be in New Mexico. How can I open up an LLC there? Well, that's exactly what a registered agent is. So a registered agent essentially is going to be like an office or a mailing address in that state in New Mexico. So that will be your business address in New Mexico. So you can send mail there, put that on all your official documents. If they receive the mail, that registered agent will forward it to you. So it's a company that's going to receive mail and give you a business address. Now, we want to set up the business credit profile. So you're always going to need something called a DUNS number, which is like an credit bureau that's going to report credit and help you build credit for your business. And then we're going to go ahead and apply for business funding. So typically you do need a 680 plus to get business funding for a brand new LLC or business. We do have funding partners, and they're able to get our students anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. I can connect you to, even if you're not a student. Just let me know. I'll connect you with them. But anyways, they're essentially able to get a brand new LLC, 0% interest funding. To be honest, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's via credit card. And our funding partner has relationships with various banks. I think, Chase, Truist, Bank of America, you name it. He has relationships with every bank. He has a contacts in there and essentially is able to help you structure your application for these credit cards to make sure that you have the best possible odds to get very high limits. So they're working with their clients, just making sure your credit profile is structured the right way, you're building your credit, all that good stuff. And then when it comes to the actual application, they're helping you structure it in a way that is most likely for you to get approved. So, and then, that's week one essentially. And then week two, we need to create brand and pitch materials, right? So when I first started in this business, I was reaching out to, when I tried, right? I failed. When I tried on my own initially a long time ago, I failed. Because I was reaching out to all these landlords and property owners, and I was saying, hey, I'm Matthew Tregoning. I want to rent your property and sublet on Airbnb. Not going to work. You need to have a level of professional because you need to build trust with these landlords and property owners. So essentially what we want to do once we have our LLC set up, we want to differentiate ourselves as the individual from the company. What does this mean by that? Okay. You need to establish professional pitch materials that will quickly explain to the landlord who we are, what we do, and the benefits to the landlord. Typically, the benefits are going to include that we have better upkeep of the property. We have a long track record of paying rent on time. Typically, the thing that we like to harp on a lot is that we need 5-star reviews from our guests, right? And typically, most of our properties have at least 2 guests a week. So what we tell landlords is that we get the property professionally deep cleaned and inspected at least one time a week. And all of our 5-star reviews are reliant on their property being in perfect condition. A normal tenant is not going to keep their property in perfect condition the whole time. And we, of course, want to keep that business relationship with them. So we hope to sign multi-year leases, long leases, and yes, stay with them for a while. So typically we are an ideal tenant, but we just need to make sure they trust us in the beginning. So we want to set up our company logo. We build a pitch deck, like I said, explaining the benefits, who we are, our target market, the benefits of working with us. Kind of brochure that's showing the same thing. Create social media profiles just so you have a little bit of an online presence. Set up a branded email signature. This really is just going to help you close these deals. When you find a property you like, you already have this information handy, so you can email it over to them and kind of keep that line of communication open so you're not losing deals based on trust, right? Because you want to have something to back it. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it thing. And this is what worked for myself when we started our business, right? They didn't necessarily ask for referrals or references of other companies we're working with. But because we took this business, seriously from the start, they trusted us, they trusted the business model. And it's been working out since for that first deal. So essentially you might be saying, okay, what if they ask for references? For our students, what we say that with our system, and I guess you could say the same thing too. What we say is with our system, we've generated thousands of 5-star reviews with an average rating of 4.9. Okay, that's my pedigree on Airbnb, and it is true. With our system, we're excellent. Every single one of our students is at least top 20% host on Airbnb, every single one of our students. So that's kind of what we say if they ask for references. Now, if you are very professional, most likely they're not going to ask for too many references, but that's just a hurdle that you might have to get over. Phase 3 is all about market research and deal acquisition. So this is really where you're going to be finding profitable markets, underserved markets. And we kind of like to refer to this as a treasure hunt, right? Because in the country, in the USA, there's underserved markets, like gold mine markets. They're just underserved and everything's going to work. But also in any market, there's an underserved property type, right? So like, for instance, in the Disney market, we realized that the 15-bedroom homes, there was a high demand and not a big supply. So what that means is, we're going to get a lot of interest in them and it's going to be very profitable. Or it could be various amenities, like even something so simple as having an accessible house. And for whatever reason, you're in like a market that has a lot of hospitals nearby. There might be people searching those accessibility features on Airbnb, right? Like handrails in the shower or accessible parking or whatever. But it's up to you to kind of hunt for markets around the country and to kind of filter through some of these search results and see what properties seem to be performing the best. Now, our favorite way to find deals, honestly, is through property finders on Facebook Marketplace. So there's various property finder groups like short-term rental arbitrage, Airbnb arbitrage, whatever. If you search those up on Facebook groups, all of a sudden you're going to find a whole lot of property finders in these groups that are posting deals every day. And these are already pre-vetted, pre-approved deals. So all you got to do is run your deal analysis on them, and then typically a property finder is going to take a fee of anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500. So you pay the fee only after you close the deal and sign the lease. But of course, you need to make sure that the property is going to be profitable first, right? So the rule of thumb that we like to use is we want to make sure that the property is going to generate in gross revenue at least 2 times the rent. So what does that mean? If the property, the rent is $2,000 a month, we want to be able to generate at least $4,000 a month for it to be profitable and for it to cash flow. So how do you check that? There's various different sites we like to go to. You can search the actual property address on AirDNA. You can just put it in there. So we'll kind of just paste in the address. And then what you can do is in the general area of the property, and I don't have an exact address handy, it would have been helpful, but essentially we'll paste the exact address of the property and then we'll filter by whatever the property has. So let's say this property is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, it's a house, and then, you can click the amenities. So if it has a pool, a hot tub, then you're going to see in the area in proximity to the property, kind of what properties have those amenities. Then you can click on them. If they're a comp, we like to verify whatever those other 3 websites we're saying, the AirDNA, Rabu, whatever. So if they're saying the property is going to make $10,000 a month, we just like to click around in the real-time comps and see how their calendar's booking up. So these people are booking for about $1,000 a night, and see if they're actually getting bookings. So you can see here they got a New Year's booking today, filming of this video. I believe it's the 22nd. They're all booked up. They have a couple bookings for the weekend. So you can kind of click around their calendars and just make sure that your actual real-time competition in the area is matching the data that those other 3 sites are giving you. So back here to our 90-day roadmap. So of course, I prefer to get properties from property finders on Facebook Marketplace, or of course, we have a network of property finders that help us as well. But you can just reach out to properties on Zillow as well if you really want to. For the highest kind of conversion rate, or for the highest chances of getting a landlord to say yes, most likely you're going to have to contact a landlord that's property's been sitting a little while, because then they'll be open to alternative lease solutions. As far as the short-term rental friendly lease, we always have an addendum added to the lease that essentially just explicitly says that that the landlord agrees that we can sublet the property on third-party platforms like Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com. There's some other legal verbiage in there that kind of just protects the landlord and protects us. Like one thing we add in there that protects us is that if any short-term rental laws ever change, that we have the ability to break the lease. And that's beneficial to both parties, because we don't want to be stuck with a lease that we legally can't operate. And then the landlord doesn't want us in there not able to pay rent and have to evict us. I mean, that's just a mess. So we make sure that's agreed upon ahead of time. And then, of course, place renter's insurance to protect your property in case anything happens in there with your guests. The next couple of weeks is all about setup and furnishing. We always recommend to give yourself at least 2 weeks. So you want to start the lease or the move-in date 2 weeks away. So that time it gives you that gives you time to hire all your contractors, to schedule all your labor, to plan the design, to order all the furniture. So essentially you have everything ready ahead of time. And then when it's finally move-in day, we like to shoot for 3, if not a maximum of 5 days. So we have all the packages ready. We schedule people to come in, build all the furniture, paint all the accent walls, hang all the TVs, install the locks, install the cameras. And then we want to have the property photographed and then, deep cleaned, staged, and then photographed as soon as possible. This is one thing we always harp on with our students. Time is literally money. Every day you're taking to set up the property is a day that you're losing the opportunity, or you're losing the opportunity to rent that place. Okay, so not only are you paying rent for those days to the landlord, you're also missing the opportunity or missing wages that you could have leased the place on Airbnb. So time is money. pay people to set up the property as quick as possible. You don't want to do it yourself because you're quite literally missing out on thousands of dollars if you do it yourself and take forever. So you're not saving money. It's a better opportunity to just pay people, get it done quickly, and then get your property cash flowing. So of course you build cleaner SOPs. So when you're on site on the property, you're going to recognize, small things that might be a bit confusing for guests, or, how you want your cleaners to operate. So we'll always make signs for, if the thermostat's a little complicated, if you need to make signs, how to use the TV, how to use the washer, trash instructions, whatever. You want to automate as much as possible so guests aren't messaging you on the Airbnb platform, asking all these questions that you could have addressed ahead of time. Final staging. So you want to stage the place in terms of like an experience, right? So you might want to stage like wine glasses on the kitchen counter, or, like lemonade on the back patio table or whatever. You really want to sell the experience of the property so guests can envision themselves staying in your property when they're looking on the Airbnb site. So after we get the photos back, now we're going to be creating our listings on Airbnb in Vrbo. We're going to be syncing our calendars together so we don't get double booked. And then we use Hospitable for all our automated messages. So it manages all of your calendars in one place. And then you're able to schedule all automated messages that go out. So you're sending like a, thank you for reserving message. You're sending check-in details automatically. You're checking in on your guests during your stay. You're sending them checkout instructions. And this will save you thousands of hours of times. So this is amazing. They also have a really cool AI feature that you can just click a magic wand and it will automatically generate a response to your guests. So this saves me tons of time, thousands of hours. Price Labs is dynamic pricing. So essentially it's going to adjust your pricing based on supply and demand in the market. So weekends will be more expensive. Holidays will be more expensive. If there's super low demand days, like maybe some random weekdays, in the middle of the year that aren't getting booked, it'll make them cheaper to make sure your calendar's fixed. And it will also adjust your pricing based on your listing's performance and your occupancy rates, and keep your calendar filled and as profitable as possible. But within there, it's not always a set and forget it thing. One common, or I guess two common adjustments we always like to do. We like to make Tuesdays and Wednesdays by default cheaper. Those are the lowest demand days for, majority of the year. So we like to just make them cheaper and secure those middle of the week bookings. We also set something called an adjacent day discount, which essentially what it does is the day a guest checks out, we give a 20% discount. So if a guest is checking out on a Monday, it'll automatically give that day a 20% discount. So what does that do for us? It incentivizes guests to fill our calendar because it will make their stay cheaper for a guest that might be looking to check out or to check in on the day a guest checks out. Okay, that is one of the main reasons that our whole portfolio across 26 listings maintains, I believe it's 85% occupancy. So we are always booked, and it's because of pricing strategy. One thing we always like to do, and this has added thousands of dollars to our revenue as a business, is we incorporate upsells. So we charge for early check-ins, we charge pet fees, we charge pool heating fees. And at first we thought this was going to affect our review score, but it doesn't. What we learned is as long as we disclose it in the listing ahead of time, we make sure to send it in our first thank you for your reservation message, just reminding them. And then we send it again before check-in. So there's no surprises. They know exactly what they're going to pay if they want to check in early. So there's absolutely no surprises there. And it hasn't affected our review ratings one bit, but it has affected our revenue and has added probably like $40,000 at least a year in profit. And our students are seeing like an additional 10,000 plus a year in profit from just this stuff. So this is amazing. Essentially after you launch it, we're just going to be monitoring your listings, looking, kind of optimizing things for guest feedback. So if guests are asking the same question over and over again, maybe we need to change our house rules. Maybe we need to change some of our automated messaging. If guests are saying, check-in process is a little wonky, then maybe we'll work to make that a little smoother. If guests say Wi-Fi is bad, I don't know, whatever. All the problems guests might have, you can easily fix, and you don't have to be on site for it either. I forgot to mention that we're building teams in all these markets. So we have a handyman that we meet from setting up the property. We know, like, and trust. And then a cleaner is going to be the majority of your hands-on, doing most of the hands-on jobs at the actual property. So keep your cleaner busy, make her happy, because she's going to take care of us and be the face of the business a lot of times, because our properties are spread out all over the country. Our students' properties are spread out all over the country. And really the only time we see a property in person is when we set it up. Okay, adjusting pricing for seasonality. Keep in mind, we've already launched this property. These are just smaller things to make our business better. The good rule of thumb for adjusting pricing for seasonality is slow season, we want to book first, just to make sure we're going to turn a profit. A lot of Airbnb hosts actually lose money in slow season. Myself and my students are turning a smaller profit, but nonetheless, we're still turning a profit. Slow season is typically in most markets like winter. So besides like Thanksgiving week and Christmas, but it's usually winter. So what we like to do is just give a discount far in advance. So like starting in maybe August, we'll cut rates for the winter season, like 20%. Would rather book them up far in advance and secure a small profit than wait and potentially lose money for those seasons. And then, high season, good rule of thumb is to book last, so you can keep your rates high up until the last minute, because you're always going to get booked, because, those days are such high demand. It's fine. You're going to get booked. You can wait. There's no risk in waiting until 2 weeks before and charging ridiculously high rates, 30, 40% over what your competition's going to be booked at, because regardless, when it comes up to your date, somebody's going to need to stay and they're going to end up booking with you. Okay, we always set up quick bookkeeping, set up QuickBooks. It's super quick and easy. You're going to be able to link your bank accounts, link your credit cards, and as long as you keep all your spending organized, like all your business expenses under your credit cards and under your business bank account, it's going to make it super easy to see the performance of your business. You're going to be able to easily see your P&L, what's coming in every month, what's going out, what your profit margins are. And this is going to make it super easy at the end of the year when you have to give this over to your accountant. He's going to love you. You're not going to be all jumbled and trying to put, a bunch of statements together. You're already going to have it in QuickBooks, good to go. So essentially then you're tracking metrics, your profit and loss statements, your occupancy rates, your net profit, making adjustments and squeezing out more revenue whenever possible. And then when you're ready to scale, you're going to hire a team of virtual assistants to run your whole business for you. So in my business, I don't really do any of the day-to-day operations anymore. I have a team of virtual assistants that are doing all the day-to-day operations for me. They're communicating with the guests. They're sending upsell fees. They're communicating with the cleaners if there are issues. If guests are missing supplies, they're making sure they get the supplies. So they're doing all that for me. Super cheap, super worth it. I pay them $150 per listing per month. And just with upsells alone, they pay their own fee. So that's great. And our students are starting to incorporate that too. So you can have a fully automated business, because we're in this business to have financial freedom, to have location freedom, to spend time with our family, do things that we love to do, and never have to do things that we don't want to do. So the goal for everybody, and this is what I tell all of our students, hiring virtual assistants might not make sense right away, but as soon as you get to about 4 or 5 units, I say hire virtual assistants, build your team, so that way you can scale faster and do the high income producing tasks as a business owner that you should be doing. It's not messaging guests. It's not sending Airbnb reimbursement claims. It is scaling your business, finding more units, setting up more units. That's what makes us more money, right? So now my only job as an Airbnb business owner is just to add units. And now we're adding our units and setting them up in about 3 days. So what does that mean? Whenever I feel like setting up units, it's 3 days of my life. Then I tie them right into our system, our Hospitable, our Price Labs. Turno, by the way, automatically schedules cleaners for us, so we don't do any of that ourselves either. So all we're doing is setting up units, making sure they're staged, getting them photographed, and then we just tie them into our system, and then they're a cash flowing machine through our system. That's it. That's what we do. So if you got value from this video, please like, comment, share. If you need any help with anything, just let me know. If you have any questions, let me know either in the comments or on Instagram DMs. I try to get back to I will get back to every single DM. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you got some value from this video. Until next time, see ya.